before we proceed, I wanted to formally introduce you to everybody who's watching this video at a future now. And this is Rick Jewers. We just officially met, but it seems like we've known each other for ages.
Love Simon, my brother. It's so good
We just have
to meet.
this galactic connection, this ancient connection, whatever you might call it, and feels like I'm meeting a brother, a long lost brother. And I wanted to continue where we were just talking about the topic of smoking, and with marijuana being legalized around North America for the most part. How does that affect us as a conscious species arising?
Okay, well, one thing with the marijuana being legalized, and as you know, most of the spiritual ones or awakened ones will tell you, is that they want the organic marijuana.
Yeah.
And now where the government's playing a role in this, you know, into the grow ops,
Yeah.
if you will, they want certain ingredients in there and certain
Right.
fertilizers,
Yeah.
perhaps, you know, that are approved,
Yeah.
and they're not. But as we all know, the importance of, let's say, staying away from as many chemicals in whatever it
Yeah,
may be
that's true.
is the best practice in this time.
Right.
I'm a full advocate for the home-grown organic stuff.
Right.
And you know, the least nitrates or whatever else
Yeah.
you may use in the process,
Absolutely.
the better. Because what occurs is, you know, these are synthetic chemicals. Now, you know, it's not so bad if you're just smoking it, but
Yeah.
some digest it as well.
Absolutely.
You know, for certain things.
And that's one of the things that I wanted to mention is not to mention the GMO aspect of it.
And that as well, yeah,
Yeah.
indeed. Yeah.
And if we segue into the GMO and health food industry, how do you see us getting out of this loop? Do you see any progress being made on the food horizon on pesticides, on GMOs, and all? It's just affecting our way of living at this point, and it's becoming very expensive to maintain a healthy diet.
Oh, totally, and
Yeah.
I'm seeing rapid progression out of it. You know, I've been quite a bit over the western part of Canada, and what I'm seeing is larger organic process produce in stores. A wider selection. I'm seeing aisles beginning to come up of natural foods. You know, a lot better selections with that. So,
Right.
you know, I'm seeing rapid progress on all fronts with everything with it. And not only are you seeing it in the stores, I'm seeing it in the public as
Right.
well. And I'm seeing huge transitions. You know, I do speak with many, and you know, not only on the social media,
Yeah.
I'm also out on the street meeting new people that are not even on social media. So my information is coming from a complete wide
Like the
source.
grassroots.
Yeah, and it's not just a select,
Right.
you know, few like on a social media where
Yeah,
it comes
yeah,
from. No,
that's
it
true.
doesn't. It's all inclusive.
Absolutely.
Now, you know, you mentioned the GMOs, and let's look at pesticides and herbicides, if you will. You know, we drove we come across Alberta in
Right.
Saskatchewan, and you know, it's pretty sick, and this is the truth. You know,
Yeah.
when you look, mostly Saskatchewan, the southern part we come across, it's all open wheat fields, and a
Right.
lot of canola is being grown there. But
Yeah.
when you look at the little, what should be lush areas, that the little dips where the water accumulates in it,
Yeah.
around fields where, you know, farmers would leave a few trees,
Yeah.
what we are seeing is that there is water in these little pools, little dips. There's trees there, but they're all dead. And when you
Okay.
look at the top of the pool, what you see is algae. And
Oh.
you know, as we know, algae, when you see that present, that means there's toxins in the water.
Okay.
So
That makes sense.
very clearly, and
This is
just
in the BC area.
No,
Oh,
Saskatchewan,
Saskatchewan.
but it's not only Saskatchewan, it's Alberta. So again, the entire water table is, I say it's polluted there, and I would not
Yeah,
even drink any water, and it's for several things.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, most of the Canadian produce, and a lot is exported.
yeah.
The grains and wheats come from Western Alberta, and
Right.
you know the years of using the chemicals into the growing
Yeah,
process has just it, has toxicated the entire soil and the
yeah,
waters.
yeah. So
Now,
even when we
however,
talk about organic, it's fed by the same water system.
exactly, you know, and if someone does not take special care and let's say are in a pretty secluded area, you know, they might be growing organics, but their
Yeah,
water is toxic,
correct.
and that's what the plants have, you know, like us.
Yeah,
Indeed.
yeah. And that brings me into an interesting topic about how our water supply and even our air is being polluted. And I cannot enhance or I cannot mention the importance of this enough is how important it is to purify your drinking water. I know a lot of our people listening to this message right now are consciously aware of how important drinking water is, consciously put in intentions into their drinking water, and subscribe to at least a supply of drinking water, either through filters or an external company that supplies spring water that contains zero fluoride and is of a natural origin, which has been broken down on a molecular level and is fresh drinking water, and you program it with positive intentions for it because water is crystal and our bodies are turning crystalline. So, what are your views on the contamination of the water supply and even the air supply?
Okay, so if we looked at the bad side of it, you know,
Yeah,
let's look at the good side, if you will. So what we are seeing is many technologies that are coming online, you know, very efficient, that are actually purifying the water, as
yeah,
you said.
right.
Um, but also, you know, the process of just one blessing their food and drink,
Yeah,
it has more of effect now than what it had yesterday.
right.
And it's also because we are raising the planetary vibration. But
Absolutely.
not only that, the ones that are awakened are becoming more efficient in their
Yep,
energy
absolutely.
and their divine gifts. And if they bless something,
Yeah,
they do it.
yeah.
Yeah, it does work just
And
with your mind and the energy.
I've also noticed, and I wanted to mention this suggestion to anyone who wishes to try it at home, is many people are now placing crystals that are charged with intentions on their water cooler or near their water supplies. So all the water automatically gets energized by that crystal and enhances the effect. So yeah, like you mentioned, there's an advent of light technology, as we were discussing just earlier,
Yeah, I
that
was
seems to
pleased
be
to hear
it's
that.
very consciousness based. It's a very quantum technology. It you don't have to touch and see any tools, although there are tools available of various levels of advancement, crystals and many other tools from the angelic frequencies that are being channeled down to us now. So, what have you experienced in your personal life? What kind of tools and what kind of technologies, and even if you have some suggestions to empower the listener with some technologies or prayers we can use?
Okay, if we look at technologies very quickly, as we said, there are new technologies coming out for purifying systems. One thing I suggest is with, I would call them primitive, the carbon charcoal filtration systems.
Yeah,
There are more enhanced systems that are coming out. You know, each one is unique in their development.
yeah,
A carbon charcoal filtration system may be good for one, you
yeah,
know, in this now. However, they will transition out of that. And the reason why is again, we are transitioning out of a carbon based organism
right,
to the crystalline, as you just mentioned, you know, a bit ago. And the importance of that during that transition, you are actually lessening the carbon content within your molecular structure.
Okay.
So one
That
thing you
makes
don't
sense.
want to be doing, the same as chemicals, is you're detoxing the chemicals out. You
Yeah,
don't want to keep continuously put them back in. You're
absolutely.
purifying the body to its highest extent.
Right.
So with that, both things go hand in hand. You have your energetic prayers, which
Yeah.
do work by using energy, but
Hmm.
um, you can also make better choices on the material, organic sides of
Yeah.
whatever you eat or drink.
Purifying your body is equally as important as the intentions and the light work that you do in the inner planes. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Yeah.
and the reason why we suggest this to be responsible for your organic vessel there
Yeah.
and not totally rely on energy.
Right.
When you actually do that, you're not expending as much energy with your body continuously, uh, expending energy, keeping that fit, blessing everything you eat and drink.
Right.
What occurs if you make the best selections possible, then you have extra energy that you can advance your consciousness, do magic with, or whatever. You
Right.
have more energy there. Now, there is limitless supply of energy, yes. However, if you're constantly, your conduits for it, we all are, but if you're constantly bringing in 100% energy and using 70 of it, plus in the foods and drink you're going to have, well, you only have 30% to work with magic.
Yeah.
So,
I know what you mean.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
to
So
keep
a
it
lot of our
simple.
energy, in other words, is being diverted to just our first primitive chakra, like survival, like our food and water. And I also see there's a rise in our evolution, and it's not just plain theoretical. We have our brain mass is increasing. We have more brain mass today than we did compared to 1800s. That's only 300 years of progress, and we have more brain mass today as compared to then, the size of a tennis ball. Our DNA is activating, our genetic codes, our psychic abilities, perceptions are activating, and we're seeing it in people who were extremely dense in 3D earlier and leading a very linear life are becoming multi-dimensional. And Jesus Christ, whom I believe you work with or connect with, um, also mentioned that this and much more will you be able to do. He was referring to the magical abilities he displayed during his life. So, can you give people a heads up on what kind of abilities we might expect in humanity over the next decade or so?
And thank you for that.
Yeah.
Uh, Let me say, over the next decade, I'm saying daily. You may
Yeah.
not, what we're witnessing and what's occurring. We're coming across Canada. We're meeting with powerful ones like you that have done the work. You're creating your own magic. You're getting
Yeah.
your confirmations. So, yes, we can say that Christ was a magician, but a very real,
Yeah.
or I should say, is a very real magician.
Right.
And but these miracles are for the good,
Yes.
good for all. And this
Absolutely.
is what the Christ is. But
Yeah.
having said that, yes, it's all magic and with the gifts. And one of the things, that I teach and when I tutor ones, and I've been doing this over the last several years, is the essential process, doing the inner work, eliminating fear, because fear is an energy,
Yeah.
and any aspect of fear separates you from your gifts and from your magical powers
Absolutely.
and prowess. So, fundamentally, there is a process to do this.
Right.
But however, we are here, today at these levels. And you mentioned the magic. Uh, More and more, we are seeing more profound miracles occur. Now, if I may, I wish to share with you the most recent one. We have traveling with us a dog, Tramp,
Yeah.
and a cat, Angel.
Wow.
And at the last gathering in the last week, we have had several witnesses watching her bilocate,
Oh
meaning
my gosh.
not
Wow.
what's occurring is, yeah, I've seen it myself.
Wow.
I went inside Betsy looking for
Yeah.
her, and she's not in there,
Yeah.
and she'll appear.
Right.
So I know she can do it, and I know we can do it as
Yeah.
well, and we
Yeah.
do it,
Yeah.
and that is coming
Yeah.
uh, on a much more larger scale where
Wow.
you're conscious of actually transporting yourself, and it's been done.
And is
Limit,
that you consciously being simultaneously in two places at once,
yes.
or you are missing for a period of time and then you return to another location and back?
Uh, both and
Okay.
all. What occurs, the way it begins is, as you said, subconsciously. You
Yeah.
don't know what you're doing, that you're doing it. For
Yeah.
example, you could be here in Toronto and you may have a brother in Halifax, and he said, I just saw you walking down the street. You kept
Right.
walking, and
Yeah.
I tried to get a hold of you, but
Wow.
yet you're here. You are here, and
Right.
but what's occurring mostly when you're asleep is when you're doing this bilocating,
Right.
and this is the same as Angel.
Yeah.
We've been watching this. It's the cat.
Yeah.
Every time that she goes to sleep is the only time so far we see her doing it.
Wow.
And she goes into a deep sleep,
So
and
subconscious effort.
very magical. And so we have several just over this last week that actually can attest to her doing it.
Right.
And as we know, the animals, especially a cat, is highly multi-dimensional. And one of
Absolutely.
the old adages,
Yeah.
a cat has 9 lives. Actually, they have a lot more. But
Absolutely.
but what a perfect example where, you know, at our last gathering, we had a few, but also our team members, witness that yes,
Yeah.
she is doing this, that she was in Betsy, then she appears in a locked house, if
Right.
you will, the doors all closed,
Yeah.
and vice versa.
Right.
And what's amazing with this as well, we're still experimenting with it on this level. I am, even though we know from the soul level everything, during this ascension, there is a process of integrating bit by bit.
Yes.
And what occurs is we usually have the experience, then we're given the information afterwards. So likewise with what's happening with Angel,
Yeah.
we're seeing it, we're getting witnesses, not just I, right?
Yeah.
So there's others saying, no, we saw it too.
Right.
So what we are doing is developing more of a database of information in our observation
Yes.
on what's occurring. But also we are being shown this so that we can show also with the humanoid soul process of doing this in this now as well.
Right.
So actually you could look at it as a divine experiment that is
Yes.
going on, that we are going to learn more about it to
Right.
apply to these physical vessels too,
Absolutely.
if you wish.
It's absolutely astonishing what's taking place these days in our world. And I was just mentioning to Eldora, my wife, my beloved partner, I was just mentioning how this is such an interesting time that it seems like the prophetic times when Jesus was first born, and it feels like the enormity of this ascension is equally important, if not more important, than that initial time period when Jesus first gave us the message. And it's the second coming of Christ, and a lot of people interpret that in a different way. But what is your interpretation about Father returning in an embodied physical form? Everyone has their own opinion on this topic.
Okay. What's occurring this time is unprecedented, in
Yeah.
human history or what have you. What's occurring this time? I always love to say, that a couple thousand years ago, Father sent one.
Yeah.
This time, he sent many, and it's
Right.
everyone who is ascending and awakening
Yes.
has the Christ abilities.
Yes.
So this is where it's getting real fun, right?
Right.
And
Absolutely.
this is also part of the reason why I was divinely instructed, a few years ago. I think I began maybe a year and a half ago to say, okay, now's the time to have the gatherings, getting together because enough has, it's all energetics. That's what everything is
Yeah.
about. That is what God is about. Christ, Tesla told you this,
Yeah.
Einstein, these are the secrets of the universe.
Yeah.
But it's also the secrets of what we are.
Yeah.
And having said that, at this time, there are many Christs
Yeah.
upon the surface.
Absolutely.
And also, what's so beautiful with it, not only Christ, higher order angelic beings as well.
Yeah.
And also, we have what I would say upon this planet for the whole human soul's experience, it is actually limited. It
Right.
does not contain all of the higher energetic light beings.
Right.
And during this ascension, many are discovering that.
Yes. And that brings me to this amazing experience that I recently had just past the Lions Gate portal on August 8th. It was peaking, and this was August 10th. And my wife and I were uh, looking out the night sky as we were about to go to sleep, close to midnight. And the full moon energy was so potent in that moment. It literally felt like a portal of angels descending down to earth. And it also, we got that confirmation because we immediately left our bed and put on our slippers and went out for a walk in the street. And we wanted to absorb this angelic frequency. And we suddenly started getting communication like very clearly from our guides telling us that this is indeed a portal, like Lionsgate energy moving forward from that point. Also, that started a galactic new year of 13 years cycle. And I felt something changed, that Earth will never be the same again. And it felt very angelic, like an upshift, up leveling.
Indeed, and it's so perfect and so beautiful and so powerful. Having said this, Simon, what each one also needs to recognize as we keep going forward, that ones are having different experiences.
Yes.
They're all authentic, and
Yes.
it's how during our evolutionary process while in human form, it's how the messages get translated to you to this way. And
Yes.
having said this, one energetic feat or connection, it can come in so many different ways, yet
Yeah.
it is all the same thing.
Right.
And also, when you begin to connect and recognize this energy, as you mentioned, you also began to create a portal and a strong
Yeah.
connection to what, for simplicity's sake, the etheric realm,
Yeah.
where all of the knowledge, divine knowledge, and everything is. You tap into that.
Yeah.
And in certain cases, uh, or no, when you do that, in all cases, I should say, you begin channeling, receiving messages,
Yes.
and what have you. It's all authentic with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And would you share some of your own personal experiences of your awakening? What life was like before awakening? What the awakening process looked like for you? What experiences did you have? And anything exciting or any exciting experience that viewers would love to listen to?
Okay, well, the first thing I was not awake until I was about 47 years old. So,
Right.
so I lived, just a common human life, and for the most part, an atheist. And this is what my soul had agreed to.
Right.
Soul contracts are very real thing.
Yes,
And,
absolutely.
and so I had agreed to that, to not be awake until 47. So, um, in my younger days, I drank alcohol quite a bit, smoked cigarettes, very little marijuana or very little drugs. Only
Right.
ever tried them a couple times. For I,
Yeah.
alcohol was the thing back
Yeah.
then. So I lived what you would call a normal life, chasing the dollar.
Right.
Working very hard, 18 hours a day and more sometimes.
Yeah.
Uh, to have a, let's say, a good future where we were financially secured.
Yeah.
And I had a family, and
You were
I
married at
have a
that time?
family. Yes, got married,
Yeah.
two children, and three children actually.
Hmm.
Um, there was my wife, my ex-wife.
Yeah.
She had a child, but we had three children all
Right.
together, and like a normal family, more or less, and trying to secure your future, saving for retirement,
Yeah.
and all of this. So it was a normal like life. I was a fishing captain and
Hmm.
had a couple
Interesting.
vessels and
Wow.
a couple businesses,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And I worked hard, and
Yeah.
what occurred is that then I became sick. I could not operate my vessels anymore. So
Hmm.
I'm around 40, maybe early 40s when I
Right.
became sick and could not do it. And but it was all divinely
Right.
orchestrated in
As it
between.
always is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because then it transitioned that you know I always wanted to provide for my family, and
Hmm.
make good money and assist them getting them set up with their families.
Yeah.
Those were my intentions, and so having said that, when I got sick, I'm kind of said I got to do something, and where I couldn't fish or even physically work anymore, and also the vertigo, which is also an Ascension symptom
Hmm.
many go through. I
Vertigo?
had that
Okay.
vertigo or
Yeah. Yeah.
labyrinthitis,
Yeah.
and this is actually when part of the awakening preparation process
Right.
occurs, when the brain begins to be rewired in
Yeah.
transition, but I did not know that then.
Hmm.
So I got into the stock markets.
Okay.
I was always conservative, saving
Yeah.
money, and I did not what you would call waste money. I was
Right.
very prudent with it,
Right.
and so I got into. We had some investments, had come into some money,
Hmm.
and also I was doing good. So you want your money to work for you
Yeah.
was the
Yeah.
ideology
Yeah.
in the matrix. Don't do it.
Absolutely.
That's a lie. I come to find out.
Yeah,
So
I want to touch on that later because I want to dispel any myths about money is evil, and that's keeping a lot of us in poverty. But we'll continue your story, but do remind me of that.
yeah, and very
Yeah,
importantly,
yeah,
and yeah. But to cut it kind of short with that, I got into trading, and I found out the banks were corrupt, the governments were corrupt, the securities regulators were corrupt, the RCMP were corrupt,
yeah,
and I was coming from a place I wasn't awakened, and
yeah,
I'm saying, what's going on? Here we are. I was in an investment,
yeah,
still into it, and it's quite a
yeah,
extensive story with that, what occurred. But just to cut a long story short, I was more so a whistleblower.
yeah,
Everything I was finding out,
yeah,
documenting it. I was very meticulous,
right,
imprecise, showing,
right,
this is the blatant truth, and I was
yeah,
putting it out on an online message board,
yeah,
Agoracom,
okay,
as I was finding the truth
yeah,
to share with other investors,
right,
and what occurred, I got deep into the truth, and when I started putting that out,
yeah,
got attacked, and
oh my
quite a
God,
story. Yeah, like it was quite a thing, and
yeah,
it was Army, Navy were part of it, and
wow,
I had several attempts on my life. The
oh
father
my
says
goodness.
maybe more than that. I just didn't know. Those were, a few
Are you going to be
that I
safe
did.
from now on? Are you safe? Is that still a threat or?
Never a threat.
Yeah,
None of us would be here now, and,
yeah,
and, and thank you for bringing this up. Also, you would not be seeing all of the corruption revealed everywhere around the world
yeah,
if the darkness was still in control.
absolutely.
So yeah,
Like you said,
take Trump.
the darkness is out.
No, they lost. They
Yeah.
lost in 2012.
Yeah.
And there
Absolutely.
is no reason for anyone to have any fear of
Yeah.
that. Now, occasionally you will see one that will, let's say, that looks like they die, but
Yeah.
that is not the case. And
Yeah.
as we know,
Yeah.
they ascend or what have you. That's their way of
Right.
ascending. But no, we don't die.
Yeah, absolutely. And I myself personally, in my ascension, I've went through all the stages of, I would say, a very quick or very evolved path in a very short period of time. And I experienced, at one point, my guide Metatron told me about this ceremony called the Ring Pass Knot, which a soul which has prepared enough goes through this ceremony, and it may be a different experience for each one that is going through it. However, what it looked like for me was going into a very deep, like a theta state, theta state of mind, very
Yeah.
deep state of mind, and in that state, I was uh, visualizing a purge of my entire body, like every single strand of DNA being purged and a lot of karmic debt being forgiven, until I was just pure, like pure light. And from that point onwards, I was also communicated psychically and told that any karma I take on from that point onwards will be instantly get back to me. So instant karma, in other words, and that has been the case. Like I cannot veer off my path too much.
Exactly.
It'll come and hit me right behind. So, have what have you had any experience similar to something that I described, or is that something that occurs normally for humanity to um, raise their consciousness, or is that on a person by person basis?
It, it, it holds true generically, but it's also on a person to person basis with this.
Right.
And why it occurs, again, is we are continuously in a process with this. And you're given again the experiences to see what is going on, to analyze them, and to master them. But they're also part of an energetic process, as we know, because we have vibration individually, which is so important. And could you just get back specifically what that question was,
So,
please?
is there something specific like a ring pass knot ceremony where a soul must pass through a process of purification, um, and reach a state of ascension? Really, like, because
Yes.
that's honestly what it feels like, a state of ascension, that you've anchored a 5D frequency, and that becomes your reality moving forward. You can glimpse back into 3D past that point, but it's only voluntary. You can come back anytime.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and so what actually occurs, that's why it is so important to be, the utmost virtuous from the heart, moral and ethics.
Yeah,
And we are indeed in the judgment days, and each one judges themselves by their
yeah,
actions. God does not judge.
right,
And also, with any bad reactions or actions or any of your bad emotions, it needs to be purified to ascend. And
yeah,
the simple reason for that is we are in what you call the lower densities. And what keeps the veil of forgetfulness intact is actually dense energies of the whole fear
yeah,
spectrum. And those can be worry, simple irritation, not trusting yourself, low self esteem. All of these are fear aspects.
yeah,
And during the ascension, they need to be purified from the vessel.
absolutely.
And now, in your way, what you just gave, I'm very appreciable to see it that way because that was very powerful and significant.
Yeah,
The way that you did that and
yeah,
you understood it.
right,
Now, the same process that you did in your perspective of it. Others are doing it. It's the same
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
However, they have their own techniques
Their own
and timing.
timelines. Exactly.
Yes,
It's not the
indeed.
same timing for everyone.
Indeed, it
For
is.
some, it happens rapidly, and others, it needs to go in stages. And in some cases, both. You go rapid, and then you just anchor and you're stable for a while.
Yeah. And if I may, like with the karma, if we can just say
Yeah.
negativity,
Yeah.
what occurs during that process is that, yes, if you allow, let's say, fear to control you, where you just become an energetic, positive being, you're still doing a cleansing process of your energetic being,
Yeah.
all that you are. But
Right.
where you've become so strong, and let's say if you tell one little lie or even a white lie,
Yeah.
because you have already purified yourself,
Yeah.
boom,
Yeah.
it comes in, the
Absolutely.
negativity, because you are much stronger, each one, now than you have ever been. And
Absolutely.
this is why you should be very meticulous
Yes.
with every action that you have,
Absolutely.
because the stronger you become, you will attract more of this, and
Yes.
you'll also disempower yourself, prolong your ascension,
Yeah.
and prolong the ascension of others.
Correct.
The key out of here, as the Christ showed you, purify the lower density energies, which is
Yeah.
negativity and fear.
Yes.
And once you, let's say, are purified yourself of enough of those, we all rise together into the place of harmony and peace and what everyone wants. Now, this is not an illusion. It was put forth, prior to 2012 by many star seeds and way showers and pioneers that was putting the truth out there.
Yeah.
Since then, daily I'm seeing it, and you go on the social media,
Yeah.
you are seeing more and more concrete confirmations
Yeah.
that this ascension is real.
Very real.
It's
Yeah.
happening, and it's in the skies. People are
Yeah.
seeing it
Yeah.
within themselves. You have groups, are seeing all of the magic. It is real.
Not to mention the physicists who were constantly measuring the harmonic scale, and you can see the charts going through the roof. We were at 7 just 20 years ago, 7.83 or something to that effect, and recently it clocked at like 17. And these are unprecedented movements that haven't happened in our recently known history since the measurement started.
Yeah,
So
indeed.
it's not only we can feel it in our hearts, but we can see it with our eyes. It's undeniable what's taking place on planet Earth. Um, I know that no, probably from we're in a public area, it's a bit loud here.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So I know you may have been following the news about extraterrestrials, and I myself am an avid fan. I connect and channel a few extraterrestrial races myself, and there's also news for those who wish to seek that first contact has already been made, and now a lot of people are also having encounters in their own ways, close encounters as well as dream time encounters. So, have you had any experience with extraterrestrials? And if so, would you elaborate on the topic?
Yes, I've had, and where the teacher for what I am, usually preceding a wide scale introduction of something new. Yes, I've had experiences with what you would say alien as well, and
Yeah,
this topic come up at our last gathering that I shared with ones that were there, what occurred with it,
yeah,
and but to keep it simple, yes, and we are connected to them. And also though, at the last gathering, Sharon and I, we were sitting outdoors in the night, and we're connected to the galactics as well.
yeah,
And it was very interesting. I'll share this aspect with you. What occurred? Uh, what what I call prime creator,
Hmm.
which is actually Mother and Father God, is,
Yeah.
but I address prime
Yeah.
creator as Father,
Yeah.
because when I speak to Father, it feels as a masculine voice to
Right.
us. So just for that clarity. So
Sure.
I'm speaking with Father, and Sharon and I are there. You know, the other night I wasn't speaking out loud. I think that time internally, just communicating. So it was night, and we could feel, what's a galactic presence, but not a galactic, an alien presence.
Right.
So it was very comical. So we could feel it, and they were in the woods. It was dark out,
Mm.
making different kinds of sounds and
Wow.
noises, breaking branches,
Wow.
and yeah, a lot of activity. And I said, but there was no telepathic communication
Right.
with these, and there was two different, distinct alien species.
Hmm.
Uh, I wish to say, because they were not part of the Galactics.
Okay.
However, however, I asked Father. I said, "Okay, who are they? What are they?"
Yeah.
And
What are they
with
doing here?
that, um, well, we had seen ships up above moving around, and I have ships as
Yeah.
well. And there's a lot of galactic activity because I am part of that and connected
Like
to it.
you have ships, as in you're connected to certain ships on a regular basis.
Yes,
Wow.
and yes, several. Well, uh, let's just say all encompassing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am connected to the degree that I need to be.
Right.
Now, there are some, let's say, fleets that I'm not directly connected to because I don't
Right.
need to be, but I get
But you
whatever
are aware of the
information.
various species and the various
The,
fleets that are
the,
surrounding us.
yes,
Yeah.
there is a lot,
Yeah.
and there is a lot here right now.
Yeah.
But just going back for a moment, so I asked Father. I said, okay, like, there's no communication. Um, what's going on? And what I received is, Father said, they are just some of your starship friends.
Mm.
Now, it was interesting for that term to be
Yeah.
used. However, and then I received the information that, they're just observing what's
Mm.
going on.
Okay.
These ones were allowed to enter our interdimensional space just
Okay.
to observe. They are not
Right.
part of the galactic fleets or the
Oh, okay.
Federation,
Okay.
what is assisting
Right.
with this overall ascension.
But they were being overseen by somebody. They were not just renegades running around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everything here is governed. If
Right.
you wish to, there's several perspectives to look at this, but since 2012, the Galactics have, let's say, the control of interdimensional space
Hmm.
here, if you wish to look at it that way.
Yeah.
And let's say all darkness and nefarious alien races are quarantined
Yeah.
at this time.
Right.
And this is your protection
Yeah.
bubble, that everything's ascertained and secured while the planetary ascension occurs uninterfered with.
Right.
Now, anyone having, let's say, interference, it is overseen by the galactics and also by your angelic
Yeah.
realms,
Yeah.
whatever you're connected to.
Yeah.
But I
The
need
angels are sort of a galactic police, so to speak, aren't they?
all inclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah, in actuality, we are all of those,
Yes.
and we're all
Absolutely.
interconnected.
Yeah.
But it's great to assign labels for levels and particular facets
Yeah, just
of
for
it.
our own understanding.
For yeah, the way the human brain
Yeah.
rationalizes things,
Exactly.
in the
Yeah.
logic
Yeah.
that the human brain
It
uses.
helps us to categorize things, but in the higher realms, everything is oneness, and it's not as cut and dry as we might word it somehow.
Indeed, and but what is so complicated, what we are doing is, and this is unprecedented with this ascension, we are integrating our most of our light knowing within an organic vessel with a primitive brain. So there is this process with it, what we're doing.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and it's a transitional process, and it's yeah, it's very amazing.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of news coming up, and a lot of authors like Zakira Sitchin have commented on the fact that our Darwin's theory of evolution was not exactly correct. And when you trace back human genome, it goes back 250,000 years since our inception as a race, and we were genetically created in a lab. Um, what are your views on this topic?
My views on this, anything that humanity or the souls could think of, creators, co-creators, which you are one, we brought these things into existence. The best thing with this ascension, what I suggest for all, is to perhaps let go of these beliefs where you are now manifesting and co-creating at a very rapid rate to create a new
Yeah,
above all of those lesser beliefs. At this time, I strongly suggest for each one to keep connected with their heart straight to prime creator or whatever higher power that you believe in, and to not let beliefs restrict you.
right.
You have that one goal and
Yes,
go towards that. Now,
absolutely.
having said that, what actually occurs, there are so many parallel dimensions, timelines. Every belief is true, yes,
Right.
but you have a choice to what you wish to do now.
Yeah,
And to move forward, the same as the purification process, you get rid of everything that no longer serves, that may
absolutely.
be a hindrance. And,
Absolutely.
and
It's like rewriting our history. We just see what belief serves us, like you said, and which beliefs are better served by letting go of them. And you simply focus on your goal, which is to be better people, to be of higher consciousness, to be more conscientious, more loving, and unite as a race and live in peace and harmony. That is our only and highest goal. So, absolutely, that resonates.
And, and may I say, what we're discovering, what is like, concretely here that you can read or see, what's put out in perhaps some of the mainstream media is, a lot of these archaeological finds that are defying, as you said, the written histories. So, wait till he goes by.
Yeah.
We're lighting a fire. Quite a confirmation, huh?
Yeah, it's going through the roof.
Woo!
Yeah,
So, but what you're also witnessing, see, as we go higher, and also humanity evolves into that super consciousness, we are also transitioning the beliefs to accommodate the new timelines.
correct.
And this is why, as part of the human experience for many years, ones had problems with the Bible, the way it was written. It did not resonate.
Yeah,
So what you now see is the truth coming out on another timeline, and so it's evolving as well. So what I'm
absolutely.
saying, all timelines in the history of them has to change to accommodate a higher 5D timeline
Absolutely.
where humanity has not been before.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if you keep the old beliefs intact,
Yeah,
you don't ascend to the
right.
other higher
Yeah,
timelines because you create them. We all create
absolutely.
them.
We can empower an old timeline, or we can just let it go. And that's brings me to an important point. What you just mentioned is that we're not just creating the future, but we're also changing our past. And timelines are not just linear, where you're going from point A to B to C. You can go from A to Z and back to B, and all past, present, and the now are all merging constantly. And the future affects the present, and that affects the past as well. So it's interesting, and as we're ascending, we may see different versions of history in our conscious memories. And I find that so interesting. Like you mentioned about the concept of bilocation, there's also a lot of merging of timelines taking place. And as we go into 2020, I heard an author coined the term the splitting prisms of time, where then past, present, and future are all merging. One of our prophets, Amanda Lawrence, also
No,
commented.
I love the man.
Yeah, she commented on this, and I was just reading this on my way about the past, present, and future merging, and that is so exciting. I've experienced that myself. Have you had any experience?
Yes, indeed. But actually, what occurs, see, we are not restricted by time nor space. So actually, what occurs when you have that ability empowered enough, what you actually do is, yeah, you transcend time and space. You're not
Yeah,
restricted to that.
absolutely.
And yes, I have done that and experienced it. And you know, and you're also given samples of this to let you know that you can do it. But also, when you keep your mind in your interest, in your belief towards that, you
Yeah,
actually develop these gifts. And that
absolutely.
this is the reason why you're showing this, and you know it that it interests you, and that it comes into your awareness,
Yeah,
because it's actually part of your own soul's training that arranged for each piece of the puzzle when you needed it to advance you further and further. Because
yeah,
again, we are in a transitional process with this
yes,
ascension, and there is prerequisites and there is requirements that you
yeah,
must do
yeah,
with your vessel to do that. However, to keep the incentive and to keep it fun and to keep the interest there so ones don't loop or become
yes,
stagnant, there are times that you are showing the magic to know that
yeah,
it's real so
right,
that you keep going towards it, like
absolutely,
jumping time or in
absolutely,
other dimensions. And, you know, over the years, I have spoken with others that have walked into other dimensions
yes,
and, and,
yes.
and other timelines, and they come back.
Yeah,
And
I've experienced that myself, and it seems very surreal at times. You literally walk through a door or through a portal in the middle of nowhere, even, and suddenly reality is different, and people seem to be interacting with you differently, or something's out of place, and then you come back into the present reality, and you realize that something shifted. And as we are becoming a multidimensional species, Earth is also opening up her gateways and portals of ancient times, and it's quite magical to experience that.
it is. And again, there's different perspectives of it. I was going to say something, but each one, yes, takes their own perspective because that keeps developing. But what occurs, you know, these are all each individual's techniques,
Yeah,
but what we do as we keep evolving and ascending, they all converge in the one understanding of
yes,
in the dynamics of
yes,
how everything works with full creation.
exactly.
It's all the same
Fully
then.
completed now.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And you know, also, if I may, Simon, that's why these gatherings, as you see, are so important.
yeah,
See, it's arranged this way by all of us for not one really to have all of the information.
absolutely.
And that's why it's so significant for
We're all
one's.
pieces of the puzzle.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Everyone has a
yeah,
piece. And you know, I am connected to Father.
yeah,
However, when I'm here, a lot of this is blocked.
yes,
I'm on a need to know basis,
right,
like everyone else. And
absolutely.
having said that, when we're ready for another upward shift,
Yeah,
a lot of times I will get information
yeah,
uh, from another divine comrade like you,
yeah,
and then we see it happen
yeah,
because we connected,
yeah,
and we also create
yeah.
that.
It's like we're co-creating this huge telescopic lens that is our radar into the spirit world. Just wanted to end this discussion on the video here with some concrete steps towards ascension that people can take instantly or gradually to help improve their connection with spirit and help alleviate the ascension symptoms that many are suffering from.
Okay, that's a great one. And I'm a person that always rambles. But to keep it simple, again, we need to go back to the basics. The way that you thought when you were a human, the way you acted and reacted to negative and fearful things when you were human, these things you need to change. And you cannot be logical and rational to the degree that you once were. Logic and rationale, I wish to say that we even transcend that.
Yeah,
And if you keep trying
absolutely.
to use that, to be prudent in your ascension,
Yeah,
it doesn't fully work
yeah,
because, again, what we are doing is we are ascending even out of the laws of physics and science.
yeah,
What's actually occurring, we are going ahead, we are bringing the confirmations into the reality, and science has to keep up with it.
yeah,
And an example of that, you know, um, perhaps some papers that were out in a theory that recently many scientists agree with now, they say the consciousness does not die.
yeah,
Now, within, the spiritual communities and many of the higher belief systems long ago, they said that.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
science said, we need proof, right?
Yeah,
Trying to use the logical way without accepting things.
right.
So what occurs with that when you don't trust
Yeah,
and you begin to question? That is a lower density
mm-hmm.
thought,
Absolutely,
action, or reaction. So
absolutely.
with this, the best way, what I suggest, is trust God.
Yes,
Everyone that is watching this knows that at least there's a higher spiritual being
yes,
that is good,
yes,
and trust that and know that you are part of that, or you would not even be watching this.
yes,
And know that and trust it, and don't stress about going out and said, okay, I got to get rid of all this fear in one day.
yeah,
The easiest way is just know what you got to do and be open.
yeah,
Let it come to you and recognize it, and
right,
deal with it then slowly.
yes,
Do not react in the old way. If someone comes up in a park
yeah,
hollering at you, right angry,
yeah,
just smile or give them love. And
absolutely.
what you will find is, you step into your power, and every little part of the video game that
Yeah,
you master, you're empowered that there is more magic
yeah,
happening, more of your gifts come online,
yeah,
your telepathy increases,
absolutely.
clairaudience, all of the parapsychology abilities, all of the
Yes,
ESPs.
yes, absolutely.
It's
You get
very
more help,
magical and
you're more
fun.
connected. Yeah,
Hmm.
as you go up in your vibration and your understanding, it seems like the path gets easier and easier, and
Hmm.
5D seems blissful. It's not, I hear a lot of people saying you have to be blissful to be in 5D. It's not like that. Being in 5D is just a naturally blissful state, and once you anchor this bliss, it feels like life is easier. There's nothing to worry about, and you actually see the physical proof of that. Before that, it's more like I need to visualize this perfect outcome that I want to manifest, and but life has not reflected that back to you. So it just seems like we're here in the park and things are so beautiful, and a lot of your 3D problems seem to go away, but not just disappear. It's more because you have mastered the 3D realms and you've taken care of all of it. Your life's in order, and it's less complicated, isn't it?
Indeed, and again, the human logic and definition of perfect does not apply with what we
Absolutely.
are, and that will restrict you right
Yeah,
away. Yeah,
absolutely.
it's so easy just to surrender
Yeah,
and follow the signs instead of trying to control things. This
exactly.
is
It's all
very
about
important.
surrender, being in a state of surrender, acceptance, and appreciating the beauty in the now. So, having said that, any last words for the viewers here?
Uh, yeah, we did it. Now you're just getting transitioned, and lots of good stuff to come. And just stick with it. Don't stress it. don't go looking for it. Just be open and let it come to you. It's much easier.
And I'll post. I'll just tag you in the post with this video later on. So all the viewers who wish to connect with Rick Chewers, you can follow him on his profile. Do you have any specific page they can look for, or is it your?
We are developing more pages, but you know, for now, Facebook is great. I'm on there, Rick George under my name.
I'll tag you.
You know, but you don't you don't need to follow me. Just come and stand beside all of us. I like that better, right? Because you know, this is not the hey.
We're just in a video right now.
One moment. Woo! So yeah, you know, it's fun, and when you just surrender and make it fun and be open to it, it comes quicker.
Absolutely.
And, come stand beside us. Have your own gatherings.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot going on energetically as well.
Yeah.
Keep connected to your like-minded. There are ones that are not asleep. You don't need to run out in the street to try to wake them up. That's not how it works. You cannot interfere with another soul's journey. Absolutely. Unless you're divinely instructed to do it, and you clearly know you were instructed to assist. So you're not being selfish by working upon yourself. Actually, you are inadvertently working on the populace that is ascending.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you once again, Rick, for being here with us, and I'm sure we'll look for more opportunities to connect with you and share your love and your wisdom. And thank you everybody for listening. Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you, Siman. Bye now.